Welcome to Court Explainer over the festive seasons, where we are bringing to you all the articles of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. As we said, Raila Odinga and Kibaki read for us. Did you read yourself? Have you ever read the Constitution? Wakili Danstan Omari from Court Helicopter News brings to you today the question about finance. Everybody is talking about corruption in government, both in the county government and the national government. Over Christmas, we are talking about bribes on the road. That is corruption. How does government run its finances? Do you know you are the one who is taxed to run the government? After you have been taxed, the fuel that you have used to travel to the village, do you know how that money is run? Welcome to Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Kenya, the chapter that deals with finance. It is called public finance. We are not interested with your personal finance. We are not talking about private money. We are talking about public finance. Then, Part 1 of Chapter 12 deals with the principles and framework of public finance. What does the Constitution give as the principles applicable in public finance? We look at Article 201, Principles of Finance. The following principles shall guide all aspects of public finance in the Republic. These are the guiding principles. 1, there shall be openness and accountability, including participation in financial matters. The Treasury Minister body, your Treasury Minister at the county government must be open. Kenyans must be involved. You now understand why, whenever the budget is being prepared, public participation is mandatory. 2, the public finance system shall promote an equitable society, and in particular, the burden of taxation shall be shared fairly. Are you the only person who is being taxed? Others are not being taxed. The public finance says that burden of taxation should be shared fairly across everybody. The rich, the poor, everybody must be taxed fairly. 2, revenue raised nationally shall be shared equitably among national and county governments. The government, the national government raises revenue from counties. That government, that tax must be shared equitably between the national government and the county governments. 3, that expenditure shall promote the equitable development of the country, including by making special provision for marginalized groups and areas. So as the national government and county government spend money, they must do what is called an affirmative action. More money should be located to those who are marginalized. The women, the Gen Z, the single mothers, the widows, the old people, the children. And that is why education takes more money, because it is the only equalizer between people of different economic backgrounds. Then it goes in 201C, it says the burdens and benefits of the use of resources and public borrowing shall be shared equitably between present and future generations. Very, very critical. The burden of financing the government should be shared between us who are living now and our children who are yet to be born. So any decision the county government takes, any decision the national government takes, it has a financial burden. That burden will be carried by people who are alive now and people who will be there after. Remember, countries are perpetual entities. Kenya has been there for thousands of years. It will be there for millions of years. The debt that Jomo Kenyatta took, the debts Moi took, the debts Kibaki took, the debts Uhuru's government took, the debts William Ruto's government will take, will be paid for by the current generation and those ones to be born, or those who have been born now and they are toddlers growing. D, it says public money shall be used in a prudent and responsible way. Have you seen the type of vehicles the governors are driving? Have you seen the type of vehicles the ministers are driving? Is money being used prudently? Public money must be used in an efficient, prudent manner. Lastly, the financial management shall be responsible and fiscal reporting shall be clear. Any money that has been collected by taxes, there must be annual reporting. Auditors, the public auditors must audit the money and give reports. The accountants must give reports to Parliament and to the citizens. The public accounts committees in Parliament must audit the books, and therefore we need a transparent way of running public finance, because the public finance is money collected from the taxes. Some of you, and many of you, are paying the affordable housing levy. Has it been put out transparently? Are the books about the money being collected available to the Kenyans? So those are the questions that Article 201 of the Constitution provides. Article 202 says the sharing formula between the national government, and it says in 202, revenue raised nationally shall be shared equitably among the national and county governments, and says county governments may be given additional allocations from the national government share of the revenue, either conditionally or unconditionally. So, as a county, the national government, after collecting money, must release some of the money to the counties. In Article 203, the criteria to be used is provided for in sharing of those revenue. The criteria is very, very, very clear, and that is why you see every other time, every budget line, Parliament comes with how much money it wants to give the county government. That amount must go to the Senate. The Senate must approve. Whenever the Senate fails or they don't agree, then they go for mediation. Then the money is allocated to the counties. It is not a privilege. It is not somebody's wish. The Constitution says national resources must be shared equitably to the counties. Article 204 creates what is called an Equalization Fund. What is an Equalization Fund? Article 204.1 says, there is established an Equalization Fund into which shall be paid 0.5% of all the revenue collected by the national government each year, calculated on the basis of the most recent audited accounts of revenue received as approved by the National Assembly. Equalization Fund, all government money collected per year, 0.5% is set aside to a fund called the Equalization Fund. We did an explainer that all taxes are collected and they go to a consolidated fund. All government money goes to a consolidated fund. That is the account. Now we have, as it is being collected to go to the consolidated fund, 1% will be taken to the Equalization Fund. For what? The national government shall use the Equalization Fund only. Listen, the usage of these 1%. The national government shall use the Equalization Fund only to provide basic services, including water, roads, health facilities, and electricity, but to the marginalized areas only. The Equalization Fund is not money to go to high-end counties. This goes to the marginalized areas only. What is it? To bring the quality of those services in those areas to the level generally enjoyed by the rest of the nation. Counties that are marginalized, Samburu, as counties that are marginalized, like Isiolo, Garissa, Mandela, all those counties where they are marginalized, that money is specifically to go there. As I said, it is an affirmative action to remove the marginalized from where they were all these years to where they are now. What is this thing called the marginalized? When we got independence in 1963, President Kenyatta gave the document, gave the mandate to the Minister for Finance and Planning, then the late Minister, President Kibaki, to come out with a policy paper. Kibaki came out with a sessional paper number 10. And in sessional paper number 10, the policy was invest more in high former white colonial areas where the colonialists were staying. Very many people don't understand why there are more roads in Mount Kenya region than they are in Bungoma. Why there are more national schools in Mount Kenya region than in other places. Why universities were in Mount Kenya region and not other places. The sessional paper 10 said invest more in regions that were formerly where the colonialists stayed. That is explains why Thika was appointed as the industrial city. All industries were located in Thika, so that fish from Lake Victoria will be transported from Lake Victoria to come to be processed in Thika instead of a fish factory being put in Kisumu or in Siaya. That is why cassava could be transported from Bungoma or from wherever it is to be brought to Thika to be processed instead of the... So the job creation was in those former white highlands. The regions, other regions, became poor because there were no industrialization. Universities, the University of Nairobi was in Nairobi, Kenyatta University, JKUAT University, all of them were in one region until when President Moi came and took Moi University, the first public university outside the Mount Kenya region. So this disparity is what brought about devolution. People are saying, if we have the people, we are the people who produce fish from Lake Victoria, our fish factory must be put here. If we are the Kambas who are fruit farmers, we have got to have our factory for fruit production in Ukambani. If we are Kisses, we must, and we produce tea, we must have our tea factories here. They create jobs for the locals. That is the essence of devolution. And therefore, Public Finance Act says that those marginalized areas now, the 1% of Equalization Fund is only going to those regions that were completely out of this. Article 6 says this article lapses 20 years after the effective date. So this Equalization Fund will lapse after 20 years. From 2010, we are now in 2025. We have done 15 years. We done 15 years, so we are waiting for another 5 years. So push your members of parliament, push your governor, push your senator, they account for the Equalization Fund if you come from a marginalized area of the country. Then we proceed. Then number 9 says, money shall not be withdrawn from the Equalization Fund unless the control of budget has approved that withdrawal. That money is to bring up those who are left behind, to grow up, to reach to those ones who were left behind. Were you aware? The Constitution has provided for you because you are marginalized under the old Constitution. Then we have other funds. We have what is called the Consolidated Fund. We have talked about this Consolidated Fund, that there is an established Consolidated Fund into which shall be paid all monies raised or received by on behalf of the national government. So all the money of government goes to the Consolidated Fund. And in part 2 it says, the money may be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund only in accordance with the Appropriation Act of Parliament. An Appropriation Act of Parliament is a law that allows the government to spend money. Every year, government collects money. The money that we have collected this year, the president must sign an Appropriation Act to allow that money to be spent. Then that money shall be withdrawn as per that. Then Article 207 deals with revenue at the county government. How we've dealt with the public finance at the national level. What about the money collected as taxes from the county government? In Article 207, there shall be established a revenue fund for each county government, into which all money raised or received by on behalf of the county government, except money reasonably excluded, shall be deposited there. You know, there's only one account allowed by the Constitution. The other day we had in Bungoma, there were 207 accounts in one county. Where does the county government get the law to open several accounts? Only one account is supposed to collect all revenue of the county, and that account can only be opened with express authority of the control of budget and the CBK and the PS Ministry of Finance. Every money of the county is managed. Then we have emergencies. For example, an earthquake has hit a county in Busia. How does the governor get the money to bury the people? You have had patience. The county government comes and says, we will bury these people. Where does the governor get that money? A school wall or roof has been taken by the winds. Where does the governor or the president get that money? That is what is called the contingency funds. Article 208 provides for contingency funds. There is established a contingency fund, the operation to which is in accordance with the Act of Parliament. So the contingency fund, when President William Ruto comes and says, students of Butere Girls, they have sung very well, I give you a bus. That money comes from an account called a contingency fund. This is money for emergencies. This is money for unplanned events that can happen. This is money that is provided for under Article 208. So the question is, we have talked about funds for the national government. We have talked about money in form of county government. Where do we get this money? Many were calling the president Kasongo, Zakayo, because of tax. Where does the county government or the national government get the power to tax you? Here it is. Revenue raising powers and the public debt. Power to impose taxes and charges. Article 209. Only the national government may impose the following taxes. Only the national government can impose the following taxes. A, income tax. County government cannot pay as you earn. It's called income tax. As you are earning, they pay a certain percentage goes to the national government. 2, value added tax. County governments cannot charge value added tax. It is already 16% of whatever transaction that you do. That is national government. Free custom duties and other duties on import and export of goods. If you are importing anything from the country, the county government, whether in Busia, where there is Malaba border, whether it's in Kajiado, where there is in Namanga border, that income tax, that tax that you pay to import goods, that income you, when you're exporting anything, is a preserve of the national government, not the county government. 4, excise tax. For example, tax imposed on water, tax imposed on consumables, things that are consumable, bread, things like that, utensils, toiletries and other things. That is national tax, not county government. Then B, an act of parliament may authorize the national government to impose any other tax on duty except tax specified in clause 3. And that is tax. What about the county? Which taxes is the county allowed to tax? 1, a county may impose property rates. When you are having a property in any county, in Nairobi, in Kisumu, in Siaya, in Mombasa, in Thika, in Kiambu, the property that you own, you'll have to pay rates to the government of the county, not the national. So when you hear you have not paid your property rates, sometimes you see Sakaja saying, we have waived the property rates at Kilimani, come and pay. So county governments are allowed to make tax from the properties constructed. And remember, you cannot build even a toilet in your county government without approval of the county government. Are you aware? You can't build a wall, you can't build anything, because that is property of your building. Approval plans must be approved by the county government. You pay and they give you licenses. 2, the entertainment taxes. You want to entertain people, you want to go and play music over Christmas, the county government will take taxes for entertaining people, for hosting parties, for hosting bashes. Any entertainment, when you bring Diamond, when you bring Zuju, when you bring the county government, you must pay taxes to the county government. Free, any other tax that is authorized or imposed by an act of parliament. So, all these taxes are provided for by the national government and other legislation. 5, and very critical, that is Article 2095, the taxation and other revenue raising powers of a county shall not be exercised in a way that prejudices national economic policies, economic activities across the county boundaries. So the law of taxation must be there. Then the question is, how do they impose the taxes, national and county? Article 210, it says, no tax or licensing fee may be imposed, waived, or varied except as provided by law. The law, bylaws provide for that. The state can deal with that issue. Then the question is, we have now dealt with the question of how government raise money from your taxes. What about borrowing? What does the Constitution talk about borrowing? The president is all over borrowing. We go to China, he gets money. He goes to America, he gets money. Your governor goes to Busia, from Kisumu, he goes abroad to get money. What is the law of borrowing of governments? Article 211 provides that a law, the borrowing by national government, it is very clear. Within 7 days, after either House or Parliament requests for, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance shall present to the relevant committee information concerning any particular loan or a guarantee, including all information necessary to show the Cabinet Minister of Treasury anytime the government has borrowed money. Within 7 days, he must bring that agreement to Parliament. If there's any discussion in China between the president and between government, that must be brought to Parliament within 7 days. What is required to be disclosed in Parliament? 1, the extent of the total indebtedness by way of principal and accumulated interest. How much principal amount of money has Kenya borrowed, and what is the interest? That must be disclosed to a member of Parliament. 2, the use made or to be made of the proceeds of the loan. What is the loan going to do? So the loan must be brought, how much it is, then what is it going to be used for? 3, the provision made for servicing or repayment of that loan. What are the procedures? What are the modalities that have been put in place on how Kenya is going to repay those loans? How much are we paying for daily? Do you know how much we pay as loans in Kenya daily to foreigners? It is a right for you to know. Now you know. It is not a state secret. That burden will be paid by the president and his team now. It will be paid by us and for the next generation. And this is the question the Gen Zs were asking. How much loans does Kenya have? So that we know it is us, when all of you die, who will pay these loans. Lastly, the progress made in the repayment of the loan. How much have we paid? How much it is outstanding? That is for the national government. And also under Article 2112, if the county government borrows money from Equity Bank, from Cooperative Bank, from KCB, from any bank, that procedure must be followed. Then we have loans guaranteed by the national government. Kenyans have always asked, we took a loan to build the SGR. What is the collateral? What guarantee did we give? There was a lot of war when the airport, JKIA, was being put as collateral to get a loan. And the Kenyans were up in arms. How do you sell our airport? How do you sell our national resources? What is the guarantee? The Constitution provides for that. In Article 213, it says, within 2 months after the end of each financial year, the national government shall publish a report on the guarantees that it gave during that year. I repeat, within 2 months after the end of each financial year, the national government shall publish a report on the guarantees that it gave during that year. The financial year of the government ends on the 30th of June every year. So within 2 months, that is by August 30th, the Kenya government must publish in the Kenya Gazette and in Parliament. One time, President Uhuru Kenyatta was asked by the journalist in Mombasa, Mark Masai, tell us, who guaranteed and the agreement for SGR? President Uhuru Kenyatta said, I will give that report in the next 12 hours. It is more than 5 years now. Nothing has ever come. Are we Kenyans being cheated? Court Helicopter now brings you the truth that every time the president goes abroad, every time the government borrows, within 2 months, they must publish which documents, which title deed, which facility they provided as a guarantee. For the counties, are you sure the county government land is not, the title deed is not in Kenyan banks? So that once the commercial banks come, they'll auction the hospital, they'll auction the schools. So the Court Helicopter brings you that right. Then another issue that is very critical. Do you know how much the debt Kenya has? Who knows how much debt Kenya has? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. This question has been asked by everybody. How much loan does Kenya have? Article 214 talks about the public debt. It says the public debt is a charge on the Consolidated Fund, but an act of parliament may provide for charging on all part of public debt. For the purpose of this act, the public debt means all financial obligations attendant to loans raised or guaranteed and securities issued or guaranteed by the national government. It is upon the public to know under Article 10 of the Constitution, which we dealt with, how much Kenyans we owe other countries. What is our debt to China? What is our debt to America under Article 214? Then we have now, how do we allocate these resources? We have said we receive money from taxes, we receive money from loans and grants, we receive money from foreigners. How do we allocate? Part 4 talks about the revenue allocation. We created a commission on revenue allocation under Article 215. This is the commission that allocates revenue to the counties. Under 217, it is the division of the revenue, how the revenue will be allocated. Then we have what is very critical, budgeting and spending. Do you know which law provides for the budget? The law under Article 220, there is a budget, the national and county budget, where the proposals are put by Parliament, they are brought to the public. After that, they are read to the National Assembly, and under Article 222, Government of Kenya cannot spend any money. The county government cannot spend any money unless that budget has been read and has been approved by Parliament, County Assembly or the National Parliament. So, under Article 222, if an emergency arises and the budget has not been done, the Constitution allows that money can be withdrawn before the budget is done. But the money that can be allowed to be spent should not exceed in total 1/2 of the amount included in the estimates. So the government can be allowed to spend up to 1/3 of the full budget before the budget is read. And that is, it comes in under Article 233, 223, what is called the supplementary budget. You have always had a supplementary budget. A supplementary budget is that the budget that was planned, resources have been finished or priorities have changed. Parliament will develop what is called a supplementary budget under Article 223, and once it is approved, that bill will go and be used for that purpose. Then we have accounts and audit of public entities. Every money that comes to government must be audited and be accounted for. Every procurement of public services and goods are provided for in Article 227. The procedures are that you must procure your goods in a manner, a country that is in a system that is fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost effective. Article 227 is violated. Corruption is in procurement at the county level and the national level. The procedures of procurement are provided for. It must be in an open tender, competitive bidding, and the lowest bidder gets the tender to do that. That is provided for. And lastly, we have another office which is called the Controller of Budget, currently being manned by Margaret Nyakango, and that office controls the budget. It has its powers, and any budget that it comes, we'll deal with it in the next episode. Wakili Danstan Omari bringing you on the Court Helicopter News, the issues that we have dealt with. See you. Enjoy your Christmas and a Happy New Year.